I'm Danny with Classic Performance Products, and I have in front of you two different sway bars for the same vehicle. So in the front, this is our high clearance line of sway bars, and then in the back is our standard sway bar for the same thing. This will be for a C10 truck. And just take a moment and show you some of the differences and advantages in what a high clearance sway bar is. To begin with, there's the high clearance, just like the name suggests. And what we've done in those is to accommodate a high clearance with these sway bars is we've narrowed up the bar as far as we can to allow more room for a tire, larger tire, and a larger steering radius, and keep the bar as tight as possible to the frame and the chassis as we can possibly get it. And then as the bar comes back, it has these really cool 3/8 thick steel legs, if you will, that come up off of the bar. And these have a bunch of really trick lightning holes. It has a really nice look to it. It comes in kind of flat, and then in this case it kicks up right around the tubular A-arm and it installs and looks really beautiful. Compared to a conventional sway bar, these come out wider. They can't bend nearly as tight as we can just weld on these legs. So these bends take up a lot more room and make the bar stick out. And they typically rub the tires between the pivots and where they're going to attach up to your control arms. And then you end up rubbing on the tire. So the high clearance name is just that, it's high clearance. Then on the end links, you can see here we've got these rod ends. These are the 3/8 rod ends on the top end, and there's two positions on these. Most of them are adjustable, so you can vary how firm the sway bar is. And then it's got a standard bushing that goes into the control arm. That's so that it's compatible with basically every A-arm that ever had a sway bar. Typically has a bushing like this, so these will still work. When you compare that to the conventional style of sway bar, these bushing arrangements up at the top end, they take up a lot of space and they're kind of bulky. Definitely unsightly. So you get a really nice look here when you're doing all of this. The bars themselves are hollow tube, so they're lightweight. They're 1.25 inch diameter, so they're pretty big and they're relatively lightweight. But you still get a tremendous amount of roll resistance out of that when you compare it to this. This solid bar is flexing from one end to the other, big solid lump of steel. These are really only flexing through here. These legs are really tall, but vertically up and down. And that basically gets rid of the flex through this region. So they're lightweight, but they're strong, so this doesn't flex. The only thing flexing is really the center portion where it's a round tube compared to the whole length. And what that does is it makes the bar that much stiffer. So even though it's hollow, it's actually a really stiff sway bar. It's going to behave as a stiffer sway bar than the one behind it. And it is a fraction of the weight. This bar is so lightweight compared to this thing, you really need to pick them up yourself to experience it. It's a big weight savings. Moving into the pivot area, all of our sway bars, we feature a polyurethane debushing setup, and this is greasable. So there's a grease circuit in the bottom of the clamps that you can see on either side here. The high clearance bar is going to have a billet clamp that goes around the debushing. As standard, the regular sway bars are just going to have a standard steel strap, kind of a looking piece to it with a Zerk fitting in it. But inside the bushing, I'm going to open this one up for the camera, there's a lot of channels in here, and this is really to capture the grease. When you grease this sway bar, it can travel around the bushing to help reduce the friction, the big reduction in the friction when that's all done. But it's solid right on the edges, so it's not going to spew out grease and kind of let the grease run around and make a mess out of things. And if you drive it in some bad weather, you're not going to get a lot of water in. It kind of acts like a seal on the edges while the whole center section remains greased. So there's a lot of advantage in its weight, in its physical size, and how well it performs. It's kind of a no-brainer when you're doing it. These look so much nicer and install cleaner compared to a conventional sway bar. To find out more about these for yourself or to place an order, you can reach us on the web at www.classicperform.com or give us a call at 714-522-2000.